Is there is there a noticeable increase in energy level at practice and attentiveness in meetings from the players after a win like that?
I would like to hopefully say no, right? Because we talk about every week and every practice being the biggest one of the year. But obviously, the guys, one of the things that we got to take into consideration too is, man, it was a late night. So they didn't get back till 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's one of the prices that you pay for playing in prime time. But they've had a good pep in their step since coming back from the off week, and I mentioned that last week. But I think the guys understand now, the price you have to pay to be able to experience moments like that. Today was a good practice, very, very similar to last Tuesday, and hopefully we'll continue to, have that energy and that focus, not just because of the previous result, but because of a gratitude and a gratefulness to be able to get to do what we do. And that's one thing that I remind the guys all the time is we get to do this, right? It's not that we have to. We get to do this, but we had a good Tuesday practice. Tuesday is a tough physical practice for us. It's full pads. It's right at about 2 hours. So they had good energy today, and just like I saw last Tuesday, man, it was highly competitive in the good-on-good portions of practice. So I was pleased with the preparation today.
Is the challenge this week to match Miami's physicality after what they were able to do against Clemson, 211 rushing yards to 30? Is that the challenge to build on what you guys did a little bit against UNC?
It's a challenge every week in the ACC. I think that obviously I know there's different perspectives and people say things about different conferences, but in my experience, man, it's a physical conference in the trenches, week in and week out, and it doesn't matter who you're playing. And we knew it was going to be a physical battle this past week, and same thing this week and the weeks to come. So biggest thing with Miami and just trying to get our guys to make sure that they understand that this football team is a few plays away from being undefeated and being a potentially a top 10 ranked team. And they're a different team than the team we played last year. And it starts in the trenches. And so on both sides of the ball, and you see these guys, man, they get after it. They're physical. They're very well coached. They're athletic. They're fast. So it's gonna be a challenge, regardless of what they did last week and what we faced. Because that's the ACC, man. You got to go win in the trenches to be able to have a chance to do things on the perimeter.
Caleb Hardy was out there at safety against Carolina for some snaps. How have you seen the true freshmen who have played kind of progress? Are they benefiting from the kind
no
of
question
on-the-job training like you hope they would? No question.
You're baptized by fire. You got to go out there and learn the hard way. And, really proud of Caleb because Caleb was a guy that showed up in midsummer, was in the 170s. Now he's up to 190. Body's filling out. A guy that we saw a lot of promising things on tape and in fall camp. And then he hurts his ankle. And so then he's out for about 3 weeks, and it kind of put him behind just a little bit. But now you're starting to see the flashes that we saw. So I think with all the young guys that are playing, man, they're having to grow up fast. I know in particular with those guys on defense, Coach Rudd does a great job of just maximizing reps. So there's one thing that they can't say is they haven't seen it. Right, because they're getting reps. Now it's just the ability to process it, slow it down, so that you can play up to speed with everybody else on the field.
Mm-hmm. It was clear this past Saturday that the pressures, the blitzes, the stunts impacted Drake May a little bit. As an offensive guy, knowing what Coach Rudd does defensively, what makes some of those things tough to block, tough to identify? especially when you get in those 3rd and long situations?
Great question. So, biggest thing when you're facing all of the twists. Well, one, you want to stay ahead of the chain so you don't give them the opportunity to get into exotic fronts and start moving. And it just requires the guys up front to be extremely disciplined, right? And it's happening fast. And so timing is the key. So when you have precision, and so the guy that's the first one, whether you have him penetrating or you have him, working a specific placement on the lineman adjacent to him, and then the guy's coming off his backside fast. If a tackle or a guard, they turn their shoulders too much, man, it's hard for them to recover. And I thought early on they were able to get to him and get a couple hits. They didn't equate to sacks. But when you get to a quarterback potentially early in the game, it could disrupt his timing potentially. I'm not saying that's what happened with Drake, but you always want to try and get a couple hits on the quarterback early, and then that may make him flush the pocket the next time. And so the biggest thing that makes it hard is there's so many different ones, and they all look different to the guys, and it takes a tremendous amount of coordination, communication, and then there's going to be some situations offensively that you're just not in a good call, right? So sometimes you're sliding to it, sometimes you're in man blocking, and there's advantages to sliding, but there's disadvantages to a full slide to it. And when you're in a man scheme, which a lot of those 3rd down exotic fronts cause you to be in a man scheme, now everybody has to be on the same plane, right? But you're trying to win your one-on-one battle, and if you have any distortion of planes, then you can't twist, right? So then guys get picked, and then now you have a free rusher. So there's a reason why defensive guys do it, and there's a reason why offensive guys want to stay ahead of the chains so that they don't have to be as precise in those situations. And then the other thing is, in long yards, the quarterback has to hold the ball a little bit longer because most of your routes are going to the sticks or beyond the sticks. Whereas if you're in a quick game situation in the short yardage, then you can protect, right, the offensive lineman in the backs in protection because the ball's out of your hand quickly.
How much do you and John go back and forth during the week about what may work against a certain opponent, down and distance situations, that kind of thing?
Yeah, and for me, I'll give some initial thoughts and then kind of assess what they're doing, and if I see anything that causes problems. But I rely on him and the staff, and the same thing with Dez, just because there's so many other components of the job that pull me away at times. So I don't get to see every bit of all of the different situations that they're preparing for. But we'll bounce ideas and talk about things that are tough, and he'll ask my opinion on, okay, what do you see on them offensively? What are some of their weaknesses? And typically the most conversation I have is with he and the D-line guys about, hey, this is what I see from a front perspective, right? This is some of the things that I see. Maybe this is the offensive lineman in the lineup that turns his shoulders, or this tackle is opening the gate pretty quickly, or you're getting an underhand strike as opposed to a three-point strike, and just different things that we talk about, just trying to give them some tidbits.
For the first 5 weeks of the season, these guys did not get a lot of praise from outside the McHugh Center. What's the key for them handling the pats on the back and congratulatory text messages and everything they're getting this week?
Yeah, so my message then and my message now is simplify your life. Right? The 24-hour rule, you celebrate it, you enjoy it for 24 hours. And my first question to the senior leadership group when we met on Monday morning was, what now? And I wanted to hear their response, like, what now? To kind of see where their mindset is. And their response was, we got to go back to work. Right? It's Monday. It's Mindset Monday. We can't be thinking about what happened on Saturday night. And then I told them again today, like, this was Coach Slade actually said this, so I'm going to piggyback off of what he said after the game. He's like, yeah, this is a blue dot game, meaning that on your phone you had a lot of blue dots from text messages, right, where you get a bunch of those after a win, but after a loss there's not many blue dots, maybe mom, maybe your wife, maybe your child. But you want to respect the individuals that reach out, and like with me, I make sure that I respond. I take time on Saturday night and Sunday to respond to those who took it. But after that, man, I'm focused on the game. So it's teaching these guys that you have to be in love with the process, right? And we saw a cool little video. One of the players sent it to me, and I thought it was appropriate. It talks about the honey badger, right? And so the honey badger, you know, he's got to go face in to the tree to get the honey. Now, the rest of his body has the fur coat to take the stings, but his face is vulnerable, right? And the message was, right, the taste of honey is worth the pain. So we got to focus on the pain of discipline, right? Or you have the pain of regret. So hopefully these guys, you know, will learn and grow in handling success, right? And if you want to continue on this road, man, you got to pay the price. It doesn't come, there's nothing easy. And, you know, that's the stretch that we have. And really it's ACC football, man, week in and week out, man, you got to show up. And the only way that you can show up is you consistently have to respect the process and take it one day at a time, one snap at a time, one practice at a time.
Who is in that senior leadership
Oh
group?
man, there's
What
a
is it?
bunch of them. So pretty much all the guys that are listed as seniors, and then I got a couple guys that, you know, are fourth-year guys that this could be their last season because of their graduation. But man, there's a ton of them. I don't want to miss anybody, but there's probably about 25 to 30 guys in that group, and we meet on Mondays before the team meeting, and then we meet on Fridays before the team meeting, and that's just me and those guys. And then I have another group of representation called the Who Cadence, which is a selection of guys from each classification, and they meet with Coach Smotherman, the strength coach. They usually meet on Thursdays, and it's just a way for them to have a voice in the program, and then also a way for us to get messaging out to the team.
Coach, belief has been something that you've talked about throughout this season. How do you make sure that belief stays intact regardless of the results, good or bad?
I mean, if we talk a lot about life in this program as well, and if you look at just their lives the last year, right, to get to this point is taking a lot of belief, and belief is faith in essence, right, and that's the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. Right, so that's what it takes in life. That's what it takes in football. Every week, well, when you start the week, you're believing that you're going to win the game. Right, that's how every week starts. And so, I want that to be a foundational principle within this program. We talk about holding the cable. Right, you know, cable is commitment, appreciation, belief, love, and effort. You know, that's the part of who we are. So, I think the times that these young men went through back in November, December, January to get back here to grounds, right? Belief sustained them, and so they have evidence of what belief can do, and they're believing that they can finish the season strong. They're believing that week in and week out they can win. But what's the alternative? If you don't have belief, what's going to get you up every day? You know, what's going to sustain you? Because, man, life is hard. You know, I got amongst all of the congratulatory texts, you know, I got a text about a young man that I was associated with in one of my previous stops that got hit really hard with life this week. And the only thing that's really going to sustain him is belief, because there's going to be days that he doesn't want to get up and go forward. There's going to be days that I'm struggling, right? There's going to be days you're struggling, and at the end of the day, there's really only two things that I believe that you really control in life, and that's, you know, your education and, in a sense, your attitude, your belief, right? So as long as I'm, you know, privileged to be the head coach, there's always going to be belief, because we all desire to become what we were created to become, and in order for that to happen, you got to believe.
Coach, you had a breakthrough this week with the ground game, and that, of course, led to a good advantage in time of possession as well. How important is that cycle of ground attack success with time of possession moving forward for you guys?
Right. I think it allows you to play some complementary football. It allows you to dictate the pace of the game, so to speak. In essence, you believe when you win the time of possession, you limit their opportunities to score. So there's a lot of benefits to time of possession. And for us, man, we want to be a football team that's balanced. We want to run the football. Right? For us, when we can run the football, it opens up a lot of things, you know, on offense. And, you know, that was what I was most proud of throughout the course of the game is from start to finish, you felt like every time those guys on offense took the field, they believed that they were going to be able to go right down the field and score, right? And it started because they were staying ahead of the chains. They were having success. They weren't in long yardage situations. And then you started to see the line of scrimmage change. And then the flip side is defensively, those guys, right, they feel good going out there because you know what? Hey, let's go do our job and get that ball back. And I thought one of the biggest things that helped, with that was special teams, right? Special teams early on in the game created some very, very long fields for the opponent, which, the defense did a great job of maintaining that field position. And so then now when you're getting the ball back at midfield, right, you can be more aggressive offensively, right? And so you can run the ball, you can pass the ball. So it's big when you can run the football. And then it kind of sets the mindset for the game. And we know that, for a lack of a better way to describe it, down the stretch, he's going to be fistfights. Man, and it's going to be one in the trenches. And so whoever can control the line of scrimmage is going to have the best chance of winning.
Just piggybacking off of that, Dez said after the game that you guys felt like you could run on Carolina. Did you see something in your film study during the bye week that convinced you that you'd be able to run the ball successfully against them?
I think it started with, last game, one of our better running performances was versus, that group last year. So I think there was confidence with these guys that, okay, we've seen ourselves do it once, versus not to the extent we did on Saturday, but we've seen us have some success in what that led to, being able to kind of go possession for a while the previous year. Structurally, they line up, so I think you gain some confidence because you kind of know where they're going to be at. They're really good on defense. They got really good personnel, and that's what you should do. You should just be able to line up. But I think the guys just were confident because structurally there wasn't as much to prepare for as opposed to this week. Like Miami does a lot. Like there's a lot of different structures that you have to prepare for. So there's a lot of details. You were able to get more consistent reps at what we were doing. And I think coming off of the previous week, being able to run the football, decently, just gave them some confidence. And the guys just showed up and had the right attitude and said, you know what, we're going to, believe that our will is going to be greater and we're going to find a way. And they did. And then what happened is when they had some success, it bred more success, So as I went back to the honey badger, when they tasted that honey, right, they were willing to continue to take the pain to have success.
And moving forward, is the key to the second half of the season, you think, relying on the running game and being able to do that, especially against, like you said, Miami?
Yeah. This bunch here is top 10 in the country, stopping the run for good reason because they're very talented, and even though they do a lot of structures, their guys handle it very well. So you don't see them out of position. I think being able to win the line of scrimmage, right? So that's going to start with the run game for sure. Got to protect the quarterback. Got to take care of the football, and then we got to find a way to continue to improve special teams wise to win the matchup, and that's where, like this past week, as I said, Sparky punted the ball well, and our punt return team was able to create favorable field position, right? Whether it be they missed a couple punts or we were able to field balls and didn't let them hit the ground. We had one return, so we won that matchup, from my perspective. So I think it's going to be more than just the running game, but I think the running game starts because offensively everything flows through the running game. You don't want to become one-dimensional, especially not down the stretch with the caliber of defenses that we're going to be playing.
Are you seeing the benefit of that rotation you have at running back, that their legs are still pretty fresh? I mean, Paris looked as fast as he did at the beginning of the season the other day. Yeah,
I think the bye week helped with that because, we were able to get some guys some rest and some reps. And but definitely those guys complement each other. And the beauty of it is, when you got three guys, they're all a little bit different. One of them, you're hoping that one of them gets hot in the course of the game. And that's what you saw a little bit more with Mike. Mike was finding it, and they all are happy for each other. They all are rooting for each other. There's no kind of division or jealousy or animosity there. They understand, and Coach Gates has done a really good job with those guys. They understand what the position standard is, and whoever goes out there, the expectation is perform. And if one guy happens to get the hot hand, man, they want to see that guy continue to be featured.
It seems like Brian Stevens has kind of threaded that needle of being a new guy who's taken a leadership role. How difficult is that, and how much did you need that up front for that to happen?
Man, it's huge in terms of up front, right? Because again, if you're going to win, you got to win in the trenches. And so, with kind of where we were offensive line wise with young guys, and we got a couple transfers coming in, you're trying to figure out the best rotation. You need somebody that's just going to kind of take control and say, hey boys, follow me, this is where we're going. And Brian has done that, and obviously I know he's coming from Dayton and wasn't probably a highly recruited guy, but if you go and you watch him as a player at Dayton, we knew that there was something about this guy. And then first time you talk to him, you can see he's a very, very serious young man. He cares. He's a team-oriented guy. And once because he's kind of looking around too, you're coming into a locker room and trying to figure out, who are these guys? And he's looking at the coaches. Is it okay? Can I be who I am? Is it okay for me to lead? And when we gave him the keys and said, hey, we need that leadership, because we didn't have a ton of veterans. Right? There's not a ton of veterans up front. Really, Ty was coming back, and Josie, and then Boley, but Boley was a freshman, our first year last year. So definitely needed his leadership, and I think also his just a demeanor too. He's got a quiet confidence about himself that I think calms guys down. So what I was proud of is we had a couple of issues early on where they got to the quarterback, but man, the guys settled right in, and for the rest of the game, I thought the protection was pretty clean, and we had to move some guys around, and you need a guy inside like Brian that can just keep everybody calm amidst the changing and the tweaking until we can figure out the right rotation.
With the success Brian has had coming from a non-scholarship FC, does it make the staff maybe less hesitant to, when you look in the portal, to look at guys from FCS schools or Division II, if somebody's out there?
Yeah, we're looking for the best football players, right? The best football players that also fit what we're building here at UVA. And the first thing for me is, man, I want guys, obviously, that have the ability that we're looking for, but I want guys that want to be at UVA. Like, this is where they want to be. And so, to me, it doesn't matter if their body of work says that they have the qualifications and the skill set that can make us better, then and they want to be here, and it means something to them. Those are the guys that I wanna recruit. And obviously, there's always going to be the lure of getting caught up in the rankings and the measurables and all of those things. But for us, I just want good football players that are good young men that are passionate about their opportunity in the classroom, on the field, in the community, that want to be a part of what we're doing.
I guess kind of along those lines, why are you guys willing to take that chance with lesser players? Because he's not the only one that maybe wasn't as highly recruited. You got Muskett there. You got Paul Carey, who made a huge play for you Saturday. Why are you guys more willing to take those chances? I think when you look at UVA, right, it's got its own niche, right? There's I wouldn't say challenge. I'm gonna say there's opportunities here that are different than per se other schools, right? And so you first and foremost are looking for the total package, right? And you look at Paul Carey. He's a guy from an academic standpoint, graduate of Columbia, it fits. And then when you look at his production on the field, it fits, and he fits in the locker room. So for us, and then we also got, Kobe, we got Malcolm, we got, some guys from some other schools. For us, it's about the fit to the university, to the community, and to the program. And got to battle hard to stay true to that, right? Because when you have success, it's
may create more opportunities, right? But at the end of the day, we got to find guys that want to be at UVA, that fit, that make our football team better.
Talking about guys that fit, Tony Muskett, just talk about how he has come along and how important is it that he's willing to put everything out there with a shoulder like it is, and he ran the ball a dozen times the other night, picked up key yardage. How important is that to have him in there?
Oh, it's man, it's been awesome, and you know I can't give him enough praise, especially in this day and age. You know, here's a guy that had a significant injury to his shoulder, but he's committed to the program. He's committed to his teammates. He's a competitor, and I think you're able to see what made him successful at Monmouth and what's making him successful so far here at UVA is that he's extremely competitive. He works extremely hard. He prepares like a pro, and just his leadership as well that he was able to bring in the door, and just the impact that it's had in the locker room, especially from that position. And then you look at not only that, you look at the relationship that he has with Calandria, the young quarterback, and man, you would have thought those two grew up together, just as close as they are. And so it's just a testament to the type of young man that he is. And those were all things that we thought and we believed that he had, and now we're starting to see that, and everybody's starting to see just the type of competitor and leader that he is.